All right, then. That was a pretty decisive victory there. Bane losing.
Yes, they did. I think as soon as that Basilisk went down, all of us in the Alliance just looked at each other and said, GG.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, Black Legion brought a better team. Once again, just like the previous match, it came down to piloting and FCing calls. And this was why I kind of called Outbreak before as a potential winner. They should have lost, but they didn't. They made the right calls. They rushed right back, right through those Tengus and went for the Basilisk, dropped it down. After that, it was game over. The minute they got in range, it was game over. Now, interestingly, Black Legion, when they decided to try one of the Sleipnirs, they were very quickly able to take that down. If they would have focused on their damage early on, you know.
Was it the same team that Pandemic brought?
It looked like the same team, but as Ravi said, perhaps it was just a cheap carbon copy.
All right, one of the things that surprised me a little bit, because we haven't really seen the ship this tournament up until now, is the Sheila. What does that bring to the setup?
That is a good question that we'd actually have to ask Ravi, because I know there was a lot of forum posting and contention on our tournament forum sections between the Gilas and the Moas and you know, other ships that you could field instead of those. And Black Horizon, one of our main theory crafters, was heavily against the Gilas, if I remember wrong. Wow. And but in the end, there was slightly better resistance, if I remember right, to ECM.
Bonus, yeah. All right. We also have a new guest, CCP Hammer. Welcome.
How's it going?
I'm fantastic. We've had you on for years and years and years.
Yeah.
You've been with CCP for?
Since 2004.
2004, all right.
There was like 30 people at the company when I started, something like that.
Yeah, and now there's?
Like 600 or so.
At least. I've heard rumors there's 5,000, actually. But that's might just be a rumor.
Perhaps it could be over 9,000?
Over 9,000, possibly.
Well, we're going to hire everybody who was on the show probably after
Basically,
this.
that's how I worked. Okay, so differences in EVE. I mean, we see the Alliance tournament now. We have alliances like Shadoo's Alliance, who, we spoke to you about the budgets and stuff like that. People are pouring at least 100 to 200 billion ISK into it. How's that like, looking back at all the stuff that's from launching the first battleships and all that stuff, to people just saying, we're going to throw 200 billion at it? How does EVE look compared to when you started?
Well, it does look a lot different, but I think it's sort of to be expected for a game this old that so many people who've invested so much time, you just sort of amass wealth. I mean, that's just how these sort of things work. And I mean, that changes the landscape somewhat, but I mean, I think it's just sort of par for the course. I don't think it's necessarily good or bad, but
that's kind of life. All right, for you guys, what's the main difference for you guys from when you started playing?
Getting into the Alliance tournament, I think. Now, I mean, Alliance tournaments changed a whole lot from back in the day. This type of stuff people can bring, whatever. It's become a lot more competitive than it used to be, I think. But with bringing more money, bringing more stuff to it, it's harder to see upsets than I think it used to be. You may not be able to see 10 Thoraxes take out the leading Dynasty team.
Were you talking about tournaments in particular, or just wider? What's different in EVE? Yeah. Well, quite a lot has changed. I mean, I remember back in the day when killing Attack 2 battleships, you raced to the loot so that you could get 150 million or whatever in Tech 2 loot. A lot has changed. Nowadays, we don't even bother looting the field after a battle. We just run. And,
It reminds me, one of our early selling points of Goon Swarm was that your ammo costs more than my ship, and we would just swarm with newbie ships and whatever. It's certainly not the case anymore. No. Can't really do those things. Nostalgia moment.
Then again, battles have gotten bigger. There's, everything is bigger, and sometimes bigger is better. We are seeing a lot more drama, a lot more upsets. When things do change, okay, sometimes that change slower, but when that big crash, like recently in the North happens, it makes up the year. Everything kind of turns on its head.
But we've also, I mean, EVE's a living universe that we have plans for years to come, and it's possible that things could get to a stage where everybody's not as rich as they are now with different things that come up. So
I mean, we could, I mean, we don't necessarily have to see that massive.
I don't think it's a good thing necessarily to have old money dominate the scene, because I like to see new people rise up and make things out of themselves. And if you just have not just money, but skill points get in the way of everything. It's not less
And
interesting.
I mean, I think it's still, even though we have designs and plans and things, it's really anybody's guess how Incarna, how Dust, how these things are actually going to be used and what the landscape's going to be like once these things are introduced. So.
Then again, there's still room for newer alliances that don't have, Khan, for example, field 100 Tech 3 ships out there. They still can beat and do beat those fleets with, using setups like Goonswarm and Test with their Alpha fleet, Maelstroms, and they have a very well set path using, first ECM cruisers, then Scorpions, then graduating over to the damage side on Maelstroms with Tech 2 guns. So you can still get into the game and make a difference as well.
Every ship counts.
Every ship counts. But I mean, we see a lot of cap ships. We see a lot of super caps. I mean, you're doing the unhappy Sastro face.
No, yeah, I think super caps are one of the big things. It's one of those old money situations where the guys who have built up all this stuff can make it really, really hard for a new alliance to break into at least the 0-0 warfare part of the game right now.
But I mean, on the other hand, we have more and more older players. Aren't they just naturally going to gravitate like upwards in terms of what they train for?
Absolutely. I mean, there needs to be something that you always aspire towards.
Yeah.
If your end game is a Maelstrom, well, why would you play after a couple of years?
Yeah.
There needs to be that something that is perhaps a little bit unbalanced at the moment, but still something you want to go towards.
Yeah.
I think the important part is that balance needs to shift over time so that there is always something for those people to move towards. And I think, the Supercap situation itself, I think there's a simple fix and hopefully we'll see that.
Yeah. Sastro, are you also hoping for a fix to Supercaps?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were talking about that a lot behind the scenes kind of this week. And I think everyone is on the same page with what we need to do, and I'm looking forward to eventually that kind of stuff coming around and opening up the playing field again.
Right. Looking at all these ships we've put in, what's your take on the expansions of ships? Like, do you think it'll be fun to put Tech 3 frigates in, more cap ships? Like, what's a fun direction for some of our veterans, for example?
I've sort of flip-flopped on this when it was sort of my responsibility to add more ships. It would be sort of tough to decide, well, there's so many different things. It's really, you need to find some sort of niche to put a new ship into. But then sort of I feel like when I flip-flop that new ships are just cool. And even if this ship is sort of doing the same role as this other ship, the people who've been flying this previous ship just want something different to sort of fly to have fun in a different ship. So like I say, I'm a bit of a flip-flopper, but if I had to pick new stuff, I still really want to do more small Tech 3 because, I want to see more people be able to, use that feature because switching out the different subsystems of your ship is just, I think it's really cool, and I think more players would see that. But then also, once we would do any fixes on Supercapitals, I think seeing more of them, it would be cool just because there's only the few that there are. So,
and I mean, not necessarily. I mean, John Sastro, you're making the "I hate Supercaps" face as always. But okay, hear me out. What if we're talking about capitals and Supercapitals expansion? Not necessarily better, but more roles.
That's what we're hoping for.
All right. Yeah. Okay. But I mean, interesting question. So we're talking about what we want. If you guys were to pick a ship class to expand on, what would be your choice?
I'll have to think about that for a minute.
I think what I would like to see is some kind of different role for a Dreadnought, or at least some expansion to the Dreadnought role. At the moment they're kind of left behind there and not exactly sure what to do with. We're coming to the stage where, we're kind of thinking, well, why bother with Dreadnoughts when we can just bring in 15 Titans and reinforce that boss just as quickly as 30 Dreads, right? So, what is going to be the role for Dreadnought? Is there perhaps room for expansion in that ship class? Possibly. And how are you exactly going to counter the Titan situation? I think we need some Titan killers. Where that bring more Titans isn't the solution. Perhaps a super Dreadnought, some kind of capital-focused Dreadnought, I don't know. Something that alliances like Goonswarm can then not, stop crying on the forums about and just bring these ships and kill our Titans.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease, my friend. No, I definitely agree with you on the Dreadnought thing there. I miss the old Dreadnought fleets of old. Other little smaller ships, one comes to mind, the assault frigate. I always wish we could do something cool with the assault frigate. I wish destroyers had some more stuff to do. I like small ships, I guess. I keep talking about them. But I have a question for you.
Okay.
You used to be lead game designer flying in space, right?
Lead game designer of like everything.
Yeah, right. And now I know you're lead game designer flying in space.
And Craig Scott, Flying Scotsman, is also. We have like a good group synergy thing going.
Okay.
Yeah,
So what do you do now?
So now I am, well, actually I'm on vacation for 3 months. So I do nothing. Yeah.
Quite a vacation.
Yeah, I was just chilling in the sun reading Hyperion, before the coming on. And but,
CCP Hammer has never been on vacation while at CCP.
Yeah,
so he has like years saved up.
Yeah, I had about 100 days saved up, and they like said you have to go, and it's a pretty good time. It's the summer, so I'm doing that. But when I get back and I see how the expansion turned out and everything, I'm going to be working mostly on the store, the Nexus that I think the CCP Zinfandel mentioned
Talking about, yeah.
some, and just sort of I've been looking at, like, I don't want to say microtransactions because I actually I don't really like that word, but I've been playing other games, different business models like World of Tanks and League of Legends, and just looking at how just the business model of making these games is going, and also other businesses that are service based, and how they're, so I'm looking at more of the design of the business side of things, and that's what I'm going to be doing when I get back.
Market research.
Yeah,
while on vacation.
Market research while on vacation. Yeah.
All right, so, and I mean, if I was on vacation, I think I'd play a bit of games. Are you getting some game time done?
Yeah, I'm getting game time done. Basically relaxing. I woke up today at noon and read webcomics on my iPad for 3 hours. So yeah, it's pretty tough. But yeah, I mean, I still I'm always been a gamer, and I scour the gaming blogs and I was watching a bunch of game trailers today as well. So, but yeah, and playing a lot of games. So.
And exciting things coming up. Anyway, let's talk about more exciting things after the break. This is Paiste versus Hydra. I'm hearing a rumor that there may be a flagship on the field for the first time in God knows how long. Who's going to win this one?
Well, I have a grudge against Paiste for taking out my future Goonswarm brothers out of the tournament, so I'm going to go with Hydra on this one.
I'm going to have to pick Hydra, though I do wish it's Paiste who has the flagship in.
CCP Hammer?
I guess Hydra.
You know what? I think Hydra are going to win as well. I think they're the team with the flagship.